Okay, we are looking at the October-November 2025 paper 4. It's 41 if you guys are looking at things. And basically what we are going to do here is learn to outline document 1 for annotations, all right? So, state the main conclusion. We know what to do with that. To identify two intermediate conclusions in paragraphs 3 and 4. So we're going to focus in there. Structure of the reasoning in paragraph 2, and then one counter assertion throughout. I don't know what I just drew there. And then 4 flaws or weaknesses in the reasoning in paragraphs 3 to 5. Okay, that's all of document 1. So 1, 2 is 3, 5, 8, 9. 8 is, this is 17. This is 17 marks. That matters quite a bit because the average score at Oak Cliff High School in this paper in years past has been 12. Median and average, I should add. Okay, so everyone worries about this guy down here. I get it. But there's a lot up here to get to. So let's double check that. Paragraphs 3 and 4, that's where you're finding two intermediate conclusions. So we're going to come here and we're going to say two intermediate conclusions. You can annotate however you'd like to, but I'm doing it the way that makes sense to me. Okay. For paragraph 2, we're going to analyze with a British spelling the structure. All right. And then one counter assertion. So we're going to find one counter assertion worth mentioning. They will throw counter arguments at you and try to get you to bite. So, argument, no. Assertion, okay? Make sure it doesn't have any evidence to the other side. And then 4 flaws or weaknesses in paragraphs 3 to 5. So we'll come over here to the right side. We'll take paragraphs 3 through 5. And we're going to try to find flaws or weaknesses. All right, that's that. So, how do we do that? First thing we do is we're going to read and we're going to remember our conclusion words. Okay, so our conclusion words, that's going to be so, therefore, often, because, and because often goes with a but, and then also look at responses to counters. Very often that response will be, not always, but very often that response will be an intermediate conclusion. All right, so let's read this guy. Many people remember the premise, we're on paragraph 1 here. Many people remember the premise and of the film The Terminator and its various sequels. Machines became too clever to take over the world to declare war on humanity. Some dismiss this as Hollywood fantasy, but they are naively optimistic, okay? Some dismiss this as Hollywood fantasy, right there. That's your counter argument. They didn't really provide any evidence in the film before. They just explained what they were talking about. Okay, but it could be tricky. So this right here, okay, we're going to call this part 1. 1 here, that is your counter assertion, or at least it is one counter assertion. I think there's more than one. Okay, but they are naively optimistic. Because they've given a counter to it, and they're going to continue to go on and give you more evidence that supports this. This is going to be an intermediate conclusion. So I'm just going to draw an arrow and say a conclusion. Remember, we're going to decide main conclusion at the end. Artificial intelligence is everywhere in the modern world, from virtual assistants in our homes to smart screens to guess what we are doing to type next. It is often said that AI not only makes our lives easier, but will eliminate the need to do boring or dangerous jobs and could solve some of the big global issues. However, the dangers of AI are overlooked, and our lives being easier is something of an illusion. So, this, however, I should add that here as well. That is also a good word, and that is responses to counters there. The dangers of AI are overlooked, and our lives being easier is something of an illusion. Okay, that is a conclusion. Okay, what kind of conclusion? We'll see. The thing before it, this whole thing before it, okay, it is often said that AI makes our lives easier, but will eliminate the need to do boring jobs. Not only makes our lives easier, but will eliminate the need to do boring jobs and all of that. Okay, that is kind of a throw you off the scent. I think what we have here, that is actually a counter argument, because this whole thing here kind of underscores it. A lot of evidence in there. Okay, found two possible conclusions. Okay, we're going to analyze the structure of paragraph 2, but I want to get these conclusions done first. So we're just going to find conclusions in it now. We're going to come back and analyze the structure. Many workers lost their job with the introduction of steam-powered machinery during the Industrial Revolution. So the AI revolution will cause many people to be out of work. That looks to me like something that they have already supported with this example. It'll be an argument element example. So that is another conclusion. Long-term unemployment leads to poverty, and poverty results in starvation and civil unrest. So AI will cause starvation and civil unrest. That's another conclusion. When we analyze this, we're going to talk about maybe some unstated assumptions that are required to get there, but that's okay. All right. AI is not safe. So now we are looking for our two intermediate conclusions. AI is not safe is going to be a conclusion. You can see that they're about to defend this, and you can easily go with a therefore AI is not safe. Rise of driverless cars will increase the number of road accidents. The computers which control driverless cars are programmed to react to certain situations, such as if someone is on the road, stop, but the computer's camera is not a human eye. In 2018, a cyclist was killed by a self-driving vehicle, which proves, does it? That we cannot trust these machines with our lives. AI can also be used in hacking and cybercrimes, and terrorists could use it to inflict mass destruction. Okay, so conclusions here. AI is not safe. And then we cannot trust these machines with our lives. Also looks to me like an intermediate conclusion. And I'm going to go ahead and label these intermediate conclusions because the entire thing is not about AI is not safe, because in the paragraph above it, if you look here, when you go up to here, they're talking about more than just safety. So it's an intermediate conclusion. Okay. Paragraph 4, the capabilities of AI have been increasing for years and will eventually surpass human intelligence. Our future safety is at risk from AI because it will perceive humans as inferior and begin to refuse human commands. So when you look at this, the conclusion is our future safety is at risk from AI. Usually, whenever you see a because, you're looking before the because. It will perceive humans as inferior and begin to refuse human commands. Therefore, our future safety is at risk from AI. That's your IC again. It will prevent itself from being switched off and eventually create its own robot weapons to attack humanity. Okay, cool. Um, so we've done enough to answer most of this. Now we're still looking for conclusions. And you may be asking yourself, Miller, you've been going on for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. Is it worth this time? Yes, it's worth it because you're looking after 17 points. Okay, this is like both question 5 and question 2 put together, and you spend an hour on those. All right. It is often said that AI does or will solve many of the world's problems, like climate change. However, problem solving is an activity that many humans enjoy, and its development can lead to innovation and creativity. A future without art and new ideas is a very bleak future indeed. So I think, as I read this, I think that that is their conclusion. They might have another conclusion in the middle of it too. It'll solve problems like climate change. And then, of course, this guy here, this one up top here, it is often said the AI does or will solve many of the world's problems like climate change. Okay, because they say like climate change, because of that, this one is probably a counter argument. It might be considered a counter assertion, but it's not as strong as the one we've already found. Okay. The rise of intelligent machines is dangerous as it puts us at risk in the present and in the future. Okay, so the rise of intelligent machines puts us at risk in the present and the future. Therefore, the rise of intelligent machines is dangerous. That's another conclusion. Several film stars have warned that there are very real risks associated with the march of technology if left unchecked. We ought to limit the development of AI. That's a clear therefore. And this whole thing here, this is some sort of an appeal. It's an appeal to authority, the stupid authority of a film star who doesn't make any sense there. The world could function without AI. Sounds like something they're about to prove. Okay? The fact that we have successfully managed to remove environmentally damaging chemicals from aerosol sprays, have almost eliminated the use of coal for electricity generation, and are on the way to replacing petrol, which is gas, and diesel vehicles, shows that we can eliminate a technology that people once thought essential and still function perfectly well. Okay, shows what? Therefore, we can eliminate a technology that people once thought essential and still function perfectly well. So that's a conclusion. That's a conclusion. That's a conclusion. All right, so now what we are going to do is look at all of these conclusions. All right? We're going to analyze them against each other and decide here what is the main conclusion. So I'm going to clear this so that we can do that. And we're looking for what is the main conclusion. All right. And then obviously our two intermediate conclusions in paragraphs 3 and 4, we've already got that. We've already got that. These are all intermediate conclusions, I think, because AI will cause starving and civil unrest. That is not the main conclusion. Sorry, it's just not. And then the AI revolution will cause many to be out of work. That's an intermediate conclusion. So, that's in 2. But in 3, we have these intermediate conclusions here. So let's take a look at this. Possible, this is definitely an intermediate conclusion. And it doesn't even matter because we don't have to identify it there. The dangers of AI are overlooked and our lives being easier is something of an illusion. Okay. The safety aspect doesn't really always fall under that. Neither, and especially, does the idea of people being out of work, although, well, it actually kind of does. The dangers of AI overlooked and our lives being safer is something of an illusion. So we have a candidate here. Sorry, I meant to do that with this. We have a candidate here for main conclusion. Okay, let's take a look at the rest of them. Other candidates. We ought to limit the development of AI. Okay. The world could function without AI. Let's go ahead and solve that one real quick. We ought to limit the development of AI. Therefore, the world could function without AI? No. The world could function without AI. Therefore, we ought to limit the development of AI. So let's take a look at it then. This is an AICE. So we're down to these two because this is not that is not the intermediate conclusion. I mean the main conclusion. That's an intermediate, and so is this one. All right. So we ought to limit the development of AI, or the dangers of AI are overlooked, and our lives being easier is something of an illusion. Well, that's where you say, which makes more sense. We ought to limit development. Therefore, dangers of AI are overlooked, and our lives being easier, something of an illusion? No. No. It is the dangers of AI are overlooked, and our lives being easier, something of an illusion. Therefore, we ought to limit the development of AI. This is our main conclusion. Let me put that in a better spot there. Okay. This is our main conclusion. This is an intermediate conclusion. So, main conclusion, that's easy. We ought to limit the development of AI. That's your main conclusion. Done. Okay. Two intermediate conclusions in paragraphs 3 and 4. You may take your pick out of these. AI is not safe. We cannot trust these machines with our lives. Our future safety is at risk from AI. Did we have another? I don't know. All three of those are definitely intermediate. Any two of them will work. Okay, cool. So we're done with 1 and 2. Now analyze the structure of the and one counter assertion. Okay, here you go. Some dismiss this as Hollywood fantasy. That's a good option there. I'm not going to rewrite the first one, or I'm not going to do the intermediate conclusions. So you're going to see the doc for that. Okay, but some dismiss this as Hollywood fantasy. And I just completely screwed that up. Fortunately, I believe I can take this and slide it right down there. Yep. Yay me. Okay. So now we're going to stop and we're going to come back in the next video. And that's where we are going to look at question 3, which is worth 5 points.